Oh, there we go. It's working. Hello. Good morning. Hope everyone is well. Just lighting some my candles and my incense. Hello. Good morning. How's it going? Hi, Anna. Nice to see you, sister. Hope you're well. Hi, Chantal. Got my rose sage today. Gonna light that really quick. How are you guys feeling today? Hi, Chandrika. Hi, Becca. Hi, Ray. Nice to see you all. How are you guys been feeling? How was your weekend? Did you guys notice some chaos from the eclipse by any chance? Trying to get this thing to burn. Good morning, Dana. Nice to see you. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Karen. Hi, Lori. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Paulius. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Amir. Hi, Kay. Erin is here. Hi, sweetie. How are you feeling? Hi, Ashley. Hi, Helen. Missed you guys. Although I did see some of you quite a bit over the weekend. It was a busy weekend. There we go. Now it's burning well. Gonna smudge a little extra today. It's been a very interesting weekend. As many of you know, from my post, I pissed off the Fae this weekend, which is apparently very easy to do. Probably not the first time I've done it. And to be honest, the only reason I realized I did it was because they made it obvious. They were not happy with me this weekend. Hi, Nadia. Nice to see you. Hi, Daniel Jackson. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Shelly. Leslie says I'm here for all the fairy drama. Oh man, it was honestly, I'm still kind of a little bit pissed off about it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm always very direct and honest with you guys, and to be honest, like it grinded my gears. We'll put it that way. So just wait a minute. I'm gonna pour my coffee. It's still in the diffuser. That's the kind of morning I'm having. I'm behind on pretty much all the things. But I got a giant cup of coffee here to help me deal with all the nonsense this week. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of it. Good morning, Carolyn. Nice to see you. So yeah, I had an interesting weekend. As many of you know, I had my psychic protection class on Saturday, and that went amazingly well. So I'm very enthusiastic about that. But for my psychic protection and spiritual hygiene class, I always like to have some fresh cut flowers with me because, as you can see, I've got some roses and lilies right there. It's just to raise the vibe of the space. I do all the little things. There's so many little tedious things that you can do to raise the vibration of your space. And all these little things kind of add up and help you to kind of keep your space high vibe. So, anyway, I went to Trader Joe's because they have the best flowers, and I went and picked out some really nice flowers, and I brought them home, and so I trimmed the ends off of the flowers. And the funny thing is, here's to looking at you, Shannon, because I don't normally trim the ends of the flowers, but we bought a bouquet of roses when we were in France, and one of my friends took the flowers and like arranged them really pretty. She like cut the ends off and made everything look all nice. And she said, yeah, do you want to do this to make it last longer? And I said, no, just trimming the ends, make them last longer. Right? So that's all I did. I trimmed the ends off of those flowers right there. That was it. That was it. Okay. So as I have my favorite vase with me, this thing is like an antique, right? It's absolutely massive. I'll show you the vase, right? So this is the vase in question. I put the flowers in this vase. Now, this thing is really heavy. I don't know if you can tell, but this is very thick blown glass, like very heavy glass. This thing weighs probably close to 20 pounds, give or take, right? So I had this thing completely filled. I had it filled to the brim with water, and then I put those flowers in there. So it was extra heavy with all the weight of the flowers and everything. So I have had this vase for a very long time. And I have taken really good care of it. I haven't messed with it with regards to banging it on anything. I haven't ever done anything to this vase to cause any issues with the structural integrity, right? So anyway, I put the flowers in, and as I'm carrying it to my office, this happened. Where's the rest of it? Now I wish I could show you guys the weight of this thing. Because I don't know if it was because it's solid glass on the bottom, but this fell off and smashed me in the toes. I am still walking funny. Right? I mean, look at this. No, nothing happened to this. I didn't bump it. I've never poured like hot water in it, nothing like that. All of the water fell out. All of the So I was very perplexed by this because first of all, I panicked. It hurt like hell. It was one of the most painful things that's ever smashed my toe. I actually looked down and I panicked and I said to Aiden, is my foot still, I was like, is my toe still there? Like it hurt so bad. I was scared to look down because I thought I lost one of my toes. How did this break off? With no tapping, it's never been tapped, no hot water, nothing, right? This thing weighs 5 pounds. I weighed it. I was curious. But with the weight of the water falling as well, like this thing was like, boom. Oh, man. Let me tell you, this is part of the reason why I think I was pretty pissed off because I don't think I've ever felt anything hit my toe as hard as that did. And like I said, I'm still limping like 4 days later. So my first initial reaction to this, well, after I was done Lamaze breathing for about 20 minutes, was to hit up my team and be like, what the hell? Because that is one of the weirdest things that has ever happened to me. Like how, because I'm literally, there was no like ting noise, nothing. Literally just walking with it and then whoosh, like a gush of water, like my water broke. Like, and it went flying everywhere, but it landed perfectly on my 3 toes. My big toe and the 2 other ones. And let me tell you, like, it was excruciatingly painful. So after a few minutes, like I said, after I was done hyperventilating and calming down and making sure all my toes were still there, I went and immediately texted my group and I was like, can you please like tell me what just happened? Because there is no explanation for this, right? That something would literally like just fall apart. Like it literally just fell off. So I said something to the guides about it. I said something to Bradley was the first to respond, and Bradley and Sam both saw the same thing. An angry fairy. And I was like, what's the fairy's problem? What? Like, I was like, what did I do? And Bradley goes, did you cut any flowers today? And I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah, 5 minutes before that happened, I cut the ends off the flowers. And he goes, I don't think she appreciated that at all. In fact, I think she was quite upset about you cutting the flowers. Are you guys talking about this thing? I don't know. I have no idea what this is. There's a weird line on the mic today. I don't know. If I move it, it doesn't go away. See? I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know. It's not normally there, but look, it's, I don't know. It must be a trick of the screen. So anyway, yeah, I said something to Bradley. I was like, "Are you kidding me? That was really is a pissed off fairy that did that?" And he said, "Yep, it is." And I said, "Can you please kick her out?" Like that was the first thing. I was like, "No, evict her. I don't care. I don't know. I don't even want to know. Just kick her out. Like I don't care. She's not welcome. Tell her to go." So Sam actually evicted this fairy from my house and gave her a lecture. Bradley was like, "Make sure you tell her what she did wrong when you kick her out." Because remember, we talk about kicking out level ones, right? Level ones are disgruntled elementals, or I should just say low vibrational elementals. So I am well aware that elementals exist across a vast spectrum. We don't send them to source when we do clearings. We basically just send them to a new location. We relocate them. Good morning, Bradley. Nice to see you. I was just talking about you. Bradley's ears were ringing. I'm telling him about the fairy, Bradley. So I'm very grateful for Sam relocating her. But then I thought all of it was over. I'm like, good, she's gone. All right, drama over, right? Crisis averted. So I'm still limping, but I'm like, well, that's fine. At least you relocate them, you know? Two of my lights when I came down yesterday, when I came downstairs to do something, right? First of all, I don't have any pets. I don't have any cats. I don't have any dogs. I prefer to just kind of have my plants, right? I have plants. I have a lot of plants. I have a very lush greenhouse. And so it's kind of, my living room is kind of a jungle. I'm one of those people. So I come down and one of my plants is knocked over and there's dirt everywhere. Then I go into my office and my light, I turn the light on in here in this office. I turn it on. All of a sudden the light blew. Both bulbs blow at the exact same time. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I look around, can't find my bulbs. They're disappeared. There's no bulbs like in the whole house. They've vanished. And I'm like, I literally keep them in the same place all the time. And these very bulbs that I need, because they just blew out, all of them. I mean, literally, I was working with Bradley in the dark. Like, I was kind of like, what the hell? So I said something to them like, where's my bulbs? And they were like, I don't know, they vanished. So I go into my kitchen and it was as if a dog had gotten into my trash. Like, I'm not even kidding. There's somebody knocked over the trash and scattered trash all over my kitchen. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm crying, uncle. You win. You can stop messing up my house now. And so that's why I made the post about the peace offering and I left them. So I was kind of like doing this, like, this is my space, like I'm gonna raise the vibe of the space. I will smudge you all out of this house. Like that was my attitude. And no, that is not how to respond, because they're like, hey, guess what? We will mess with you 10 times more. so So I'm like, all right, well, either she came back and she's really mad, or her friends are mad that I've kicked her out. So that's why I was like, all right. So I actually had a conversation with the fairies in my house last night, feeling like a crazy person, being like, all right, like, truce, here's some treats for you. And I left them out some honey. I left them out some cream with honey. I left them out some chocolate. So I will be continuing to leave them little presents now and again. And I am not going to stop buying flowers. I love flowers. Having fresh cut flowers in my room is one of the nicest things to have in the house. So no, I will not stop buying cut flowers just because one fairy doesn't like it. I need to explain to her. I'm like, Sam, like, tell her, like, we bring flowers into the house as a sign of love and respect and raising the vibration of the space. Those flowers were literally grown to be loved and used. So it's not, and then I not only that, but then I take the roses, I take the heads of the roses and I make them into things. Like there's no waste. So anyway, that is weird. My forehead started bleeding. See, this is what I'm talking about. Weird stuff happening. I don't know if it's the eclipse. I don't know if it's like new moon energies. That's what, see what I mean? Somebody just stabbed me with like a little pokey thing, maybe. I don't know. It's very odd that I all of a sudden just have a. See? See what I mean? Even my third eye is bleeding now. Like, so hopefully they accepted my truce. I will keep making sure that I am leaving them presents now and again. I'm telling you, things are really weird. Things are getting weirder. So yes. We had the black moon last night. Yep. So Leanne says you need to have a fairy party. No kidding. So, like I said, these things, I'm doing my best to be respectful. I'm trying very hard to be nice and to make truces right now because the last thing you want to do is piss off the Fae. Trust me on that. Michelle says, now they stabbed you between the eyes. I don't know. Things are really weird right now. So I'm just going with the flow and being like, all right, fine, whatever. Sarah said I arrived late. Yes, Sarah. Literally, all I did was trim the ends of my flowers, and I got beaten up. I got assaulted. In fact, where did it go? What did I do with it? I don't even know where it went now. It's vanished. It disappeared. Oh no, it's here. This thing landed on my foot, Sarah. It broke off my face and landed on my foot. Just for the quick recap for those of you who joined late. Yep. Smashed my foot. This thing weighs like 5 pounds. Not even kidding. I weighed it just to be sure. So this 5-pound chunk of glass landed on my foot. And I'm very, if you saw how sharp this is on the edge, you would recognize, like, I'm very lucky to still have toes. If this had hit me this way instead of this way, I'm pretty sure I would have lost a toe. Considering how fast and how heavy that was when it landed. So Ariana said, I thought everyone cut the bottom of the stems from flowers. Exactly. That's what I thought that was a thing. I don't think my situation is common. I don't think that was a normal reaction from a fairy. I think it was a bit of a strange fairy. Maybe it was a flower fairy. Maybe that's why it took personal offense. I don't know. We're all learning as we go here, right? But it's really weird that I had 1 drop of blood on my forehead just now. Like, there's nothing there. Like, there's no scratch, nothing. What? What is happening? Anyway. Anybody else having weird shit this weekend, or is it just me? Anybody else going through some very strange things? I wouldn't say all fairies, Shelly. I don't think all fairies react to this. And you know, I must say something. I am not a vegan. Okay. I had to cut up a bunch of chicken for my little guy this weekend. So I don't understand. What is the difference? How come I wasn't getting attacked while I'm cutting up chicken? How come they only took it offensively if I do this? If I cut this much off of the bottom of a flower? It made no sense. But apparently I just got the wrong fairy on the wrong day. By the way, I asked Sam and Bradley how they did it. I was like, how did she do that? Like, what? Huh? And Sam's like, they can do stuff like that. They can do lots of stuff. You don't want to get on the bad side of the fae. So I was like, okay, well, how did she do it though? Like, how did she actually break the glass? And he goes, with sound. You couldn't hear it because it was very high pitched sound, but yeah, she did it with sound. I was like, oh. So yes, Leanne, that was the thing. I asked them to protect my plants rather than scattering dirt everywhere. It's all good. Like I said, we're all learning from these things. And now I will never cut flowers the same way again. I will always, before I cut my flowers, I'm going to be like, look, this is actually a good thing. Just for the record, the flowers will last longer because I'm doing this. Thank you. Christine says my Geiger counter was taken. I looked everywhere. Then 2 rags were taken after I bathed my horse. I used them for a sheath cleanup, so I don't care. Elaine said, I knew you were going to say sound. Yep, she used a sound to do it. And I'm wondering, what should I do with the vase? What? I went to a castle in Scotland, and this is it's called Dunvegan Castle, which is in Isle of Skye. And at Dunvegan Castle, they have something called the fairy flag. Anybody know about the fairy flag? Well, the reason they call it a fairy flag is because there was a young baby that was wrapped in like this shroud looking thing, right? And the father of the child, who was the laird of the castle, the lord of the castle, he went to check on the child, and he saw a fairy on the child, like touching the blanket. And because he actually saw a fairy like visiting the child, touching the blanket, he told everybody about it. He was so like excited about this fairy coming in and blessing his child that he ended up using the blanket as his flag, as like his family flag. And so that flag is still up on the walls of the castle for the last, I think, 800 years or something like that. And that fairy flag is all tattered and there's not much of it left at this point. But it has been highly revered ever since then. And so I'm like, well, a fairy touched this too. So should I save it? Should I do something special with it, or should I just throw it away? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should do something special with it. Maybe I should just glue it back together and try and use it again. I don't know. But I don't want to throw it away because this is definitely one of the top 5 weirdest things that have ever happened to me. If you saw it, you would be gobsmacked because Aiden saw it and he was like, it's very strange. Oh, Allison's also been to Dunvegan. Very cool. You're in West Coast Scotland. You have to hang out with us when we come visit. We're making a plan to do a trip around Wales, Scotland, and England. Gonna do like 5 days in each, doing some ghost busting. Tracy says kintsugi. Yes, gold leaf the edges and put it back together. That's a good idea, actually. Maybe I will. That's a great idea. I think I will probably kintsugi it. Cool. New Netflix series, Touched by a Fairy. I don't know if that's going to be a positive series, though. Because it really depends. I mean, people have been talking about disgruntled fairies for thousands of years. And if you look at, some of the history, I think that they got kind of a bad rap from entities. I think that a lot of the things that entities do got blamed on the fae. I'll talk with my guides about it today and ask them to help me converse with them today and just see if there's anything else that I can do. Oh, Charisse, thank you, darling. She's so helpful. So I'm going to be doing a Reiki course next. My astral projection and psychic protection class went super well. In fact, I think it's one of the best ones that I've done yet. I think it is the best one I've done yet. I had so much fun hanging out with you guys and discussing all the things. And you guys had great questions as well. So for those of you who missed that class, you're more than welcome to get the recording. The recording will be available up on my website. So if you pay for the recording, we will send you the link so you can watch the recording of it. Oh, thank you for saying so. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Wonderful. So I'm going to be doing there's 111 people watching right now. Very cool. So we're going to be doing a Reiki 2 course. Reiki 2 is the next class that we'll be doing. That is going to be October 4th. So for those of you who have already been, certified as Reiki 1, you are more than welcome to join us. Thank you for sharing the link. If you go up on my website, astrallara.com, you'll see there's all kinds of stuff up there in regards to courses. There we go. Just dropping that link. So for those of you who'd be interested in getting the recording, that is up there. And if you're interested in signing up with Reiki 2, let me know. We will be going back and doing Reiki 1 at some point, but we're going to be doing Reiki 2 and then Reiki 3 first. So I do have an opportunity to do Reiki 1 again at the end of this year. So that is probably going to be part of the plan. So we'll do Reiki 1, 2, and 3. We have changed the Reiki course a little bit. This is because I originally planned to do it with a different colleague, and then we had a falling out. It's a really long story. This is what happens when you work with people who you were married to in past lives. She and I were married in a past life, and we argued too much. So and it's funny because I don't really argue with people in most cases, unless people, hit the right buttons, so to speak. And she and I, we definitely hit each other's buttons in ways that only a married couple could. So now I've decided I'm going to do it with my other colleague, who is actually Salation Starseed. She's a wonderful healer. Her name is Kara April. Some of you probably know her from some of the retreats. And Kara and I will be doing Reiki 2 together. And I'm very excited about it because there's going to be a whole bunch of really interesting things that we're adding to the class. And Kara is lovely. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She reminds me very much of Adriana in a way. And then, I mean, if you realize they're both Salation, then you'll understand why they both have so much in common. So yes, there is going to be Reiki 2, and then I'm doing astral projection and protect. And we're doing an astral projection class as well. That'll be in about 4 weeks. You should have already received the recording from the class in your email. You might have to check spam because sometimes Zoom links end up in spam. It's kind of annoying because a lot of people will message me going, I didn't get it. And they'll be like, check your spam. And they're like, oh yeah, there it is. So just check your spam first. And hopefully it will be there. But if it isn't, feel free to message me and we can send it again. You get it through an email. So Zoom automatically sends out an email of the recording. So we edit the email. We can edit it through Zoom. If we go to Zoom, we go into the webinar and it says edit the email that will be sent out. We edit the email, we put in the links, and then Zoom automatically sends it out within 24 hours of the class ending. So you should have gotten it yesterday around 4 p.m. Eastern time, because that's around the time class ended. So if you haven't received it yet, it's going to be in your spam, or there was a glitch, or maybe your email was misspelled or something. So if that is the case, then just message me and we'll happily send it again. There's Sharice. Thank you so much for helping. So you can email us at astaracommunity@gmail.com, or you can just message us privately on the page. Thank you, Tracy. Nice to see you. Yeah, if you check spam and it's not there, then just message us and we'll happily send it to you. It's not a big deal. Just drop us your email. Then we can validate you and make sure that you get the recording. But Reiki 2 is going to be really exciting because this is where we start working on other people. So for those of you who took my Reiki 1 class, you are aware that it was mostly all about, self-healing, learning about the chakras, learning about how energy flows, and learning about different methods in regards to self-healing. So Reiki 2 is going to be all about healing other people. And not just healing other people, but you can work on healing animals. We did cover that a little bit. But for the most part, it's going to be about working on other people. And we'll also go into the different symbols and how to use them. This is going to be a different form of Reiki, though. It's not like the typical normal. We'll still be incorporating the Master Yusui techniques and Master Yusui's symbols, but this is going to be more like a cosmic Reiki because we're going to teach you guys how to call in your spirit team. So if you are interested in learning how to connect with your guides even better, this is one of the ways that you can do so. So we'll teach you guys how to call in your spirit team and have extra backup in regards to the healing that you're doing on other people. Because I do believe it's important to basically incorporate a little bit of SRT in regards to doing Reiki on your clients. So if you are one of the people who is constantly working on other people energetically, it's a really good idea to kind of have an understanding about energy in regards to your guides and calling in extra backup, extra help. No, if you did Reiki 1 with somebody else, that's fine. If you're already certified in Reiki 1 with somebody else, I don't mind at all. So it is important to have at least what is going on here? I'm just reading through one of the comments. Angela, if you've got an issue, honey, just message me privately, okay? I think Angela's dealing with a psychic attack. If that's the case, message me, all right? There's a lot of people under psychic attack right now because of the eclipse and all kinds of craziness. The energies are shifting. We're in between timelines again. And I said something to my guides about it. I was like, why does everything feel so weird and chaotic? And they basically said, well, the energies are doing a huge split right now. And I'm like, doing like a timeline split? And they said, yeah, but it's kind of different too. There's more layers that are being released and brought to the surface. But at the same time, it could go either way, they said. I said, well, are we going to a better timeline or worse? And they said, it's up to the collective. Up to the collective on whether or not whether or not they're ready to ascend to a higher frequency or whether or not the collective is going to stay in the lower vibrational side of things. So do everything you can. I basically said to my guides, well, I guess let's get to work then. Because I'm like, if that's the case, I'm going to start doing more clearings now because I would rather, obviously we raise the frequency. But with politics and everything being as scary as it is, I can understand why things are so tumultuous and up in the air right now. What other courses are required for SRT training? So if you are interested in my SRT training, you needed that psychic protection course. That is the only prerequisite for taking SRT 1. You need to know psychic protection before we even think about teaching you about SRT. So psychic protection is going to be a prerequisite. And I don't care if you learned it from somebody else. It doesn't have to be my psychic protection course. Oh, you added a familiar to your home. Love it, Leanne. Thank you, Trisha. Thank you guys so much for saying so. Like yesterday, we went into, Saturday. Saturday, we went into things like chords and stuff. So, I didn't touch upon some of these subjects too much because I'm going to be putting so much more information out there for SRT 1. We go a lot more in depth into these things. So for the record, like I said, we're going to be doing Reiki 2. Reiki 2 is going to be on October 4th. Then, yes, you can purchase the psychic protection class after the fact. Yep, that's up on the website. Then we're going, after Reiki 2, we'll be doing another astral projection class. So I'm always adding more information to my astral projection class. So that is also a really great class if you want to learn more about psychic protection, because there's even more stuff in there, because I go a lot more in depth into how to deal with entities when you're out of body. So psychic protection 1 wasn't really that much in depth in regards to things like sleep paralysis, and astral traveling, because I do a lot more deep explanations in my astral projection class for that. And then that'll be, I believe, the week before I leave for Salem. I believe that'll be October 18th or something around there. Yeah, that Saturday. I'll be doing it that week. Because we'll be going to Salem for a few days to do a ghost busting tour, which will be a lot of fun. Bradley, Kat, and I are meeting up in Salem to cross over as many lost souls between Salem and Boston as we can. So that will be fun. And then after that, when we get back, we'll be doing SRT1 again. What? There is a wasp in my room. Seriously? Oh. You see what I mean? Weird things happening. How did a wasp get in here? Okay. I'm not questioning things anymore. All right, whatever. So if you guys are near Salem or Boston, let me know, and we can probably have a day where we meet up in person. Where we meet up and have a coffee, or we can have dinner together or something. That'll be really nice. So for those of you who have, if you don't live too far away from Salem, feel free to let us know and you can meet up with us. Do you have an approximate date in mind for Reiki 3? That will be in probably end of December. Chantal says, "Fairy sent back up." Look up the meaning of a wasp. All right. Good idea, actually. Let's see. Meaning of a wasp. Spiritually, wasps can symbolize control over your life, the need to act on your dreams, and protection or divine intervention. They're also associated with negative aspects such as aggression, anger, and the presence of negative people. Really? The spiritual meaning depends on your cultural background and the specific context of the encounter. Interesting. Sabrina says, "I hear flies and random bugs in the house are watchers." What's funny is I've had a few watchers removed from people's houses the last few days. I've found at least 3 watchers. And I'm pretty sure I had one near my house like a week ago, and I told him to F off, and he did. Because I can feel their presence. Watchers now, I'm getting used to their energy as well. Like if I walk into an area, I can tell if there's a Lizzie in there now because I'm really sensitive to the Lizzies. I can feel their vibration. I just know they're around. Same with demonics. You walk into a building and you feel that feeling, and you're like, okay, that's a demonic. They give you that nasty feeling in the pit of your stomach. You ever go like a day or two without eating and you get that severe nausea in your stomach? That is what it feels like with a demonic with me. I get this instant feeling of just ugh. But with the watchers, for example, like I just get this unsettling feeling of being watched. It's the only way I can describe it. Like even earthbounds don't give me that vibe. Like there'll be tons of earthbounds around and I'll know I'm being watched because they'll come up and touch me and poke me and shit. And I'm like, go away, But with the watchers, it's more of a creepy feeling, like you're being watched. Like you feel like somebody is literally gazing on you right now, and you're like, who's there? And then if I hear creaking around my house, especially in regards to that feeling, that's how I know a watcher is there. And I'm like, get out. I call on my spirit team and I demand to make them leave. And they do. I can feel them go after. So it does work, but you have to tell them that they're there. You have to call them out on their bullshit. Same with shadow people. If you have any shadow people around, if you ever see a shadow and it's got like a hat or a weird cape, or it looks like it's a shadow, but it's wearing clothing, that is a shadow person. Shadow, are you talking about, Jessica says, what kind of galactic race are they? You talking about shadow people? There was a specific name for them, and now I can't remember what they're called. It's going to annoy me now. See, Chantal just says, I got the ick chills. Aw, Jordan, we'd love to hang out with you in person, love. I used to get that vibe from one side of my yard, something hiding in the woods. Maybe it was a Sasquatch, Summer. Mensa, that's the one. Yes, Jennifer. For the win. Yes, they're from Mensa. Thank you for reminding me. I couldn't remember the name of their planet. Yes, they're from Mensa. That's just what they say. Shadow people are not, they're kind of like an invasive species. They're an invasive race. And I don't mean like invasive like reptilians that come in and parasite off of everybody. Because they are. Reptilians are basically like parasites. And I hope that they hear me when I say that. Because that's what you are. So, but in regards to the shadow people, they're a broad spectrum. You get nice ones, you get mean ones, you get nosy ones, you get, what do you call it? When you steal a bunch of stuff, kleptomaniac ones, that's the one. The klepto ones are the ones that are the most annoying and frustrating because they just come right in and take whatever they want from your house and walk away. And you're like, where's that thing? I just saw it there. Nope, disappeared. So Mensa and the Orion star cluster. I don't know. It's a good question. I'll have to ask the guides about that one. Speaking of asking the guides, guess who's coming on the podcast this week? We have Ferris coming on tomorrow. The reason for that is I'm hoping that Ferris can help us kind of settle the energies a little bit. After the eclipse, things have been kind of chaos, if you hadn't noticed. But then on Wednesday, Mr. Bradley is coming on the podcast. And I'm so excited to have Bradley come on because Bradley and I have had some very exciting things happening recently, especially Mr. Bradley. I'll let him tell you all about that. But Bradley has been making some rapid advancements that are, I mean, we're all just, round of applause for how fast Bradley is coming into his power as a medium. So possibly on Wednesday, you guys will also be able to talk to Sam while Bradley is in trance. Fingers crossed, no pressure, Bradley. But Bradley and I have been working together. We've been doing cases now because Bradley can go into trance and Sam comes forward, his Salation Soul Guide. So, you know how Adriana comes on and we get to talk to Zach? Well, now Bradley can introduce you to Sam. And he's been working really hard on his mediumship and his trance. And it's getting, I mean, honestly, Bradley, like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody excel as quickly as you have in this. So just want to say a round of applause for Bradley. I'm so proud of you. He's been doing everything right. And if you do everything right, then everything happens very quickly for you. I have not been doing everything right. The one thing I have not been doing correctly is taking care of my vessel properly. I'm still being naughty in regards to smoking. I'm still being naughty in regards to not getting out in nature every day like I'm supposed to because I'm still a bit of a workaholic. If you guys hadn't noticed, I spent like 12 hours in this chair the other day on Saturday. So, but I'm also, you know, trying to eat healthier and get my vibration up. And that is very challenging. But Bradley eats well, even though if he eats cake, he loves his cake and cookies, but Bradley still eats really well. He's doing cold plunges. He's making sure he gets the rest. He's doing all sorts of exercises every day and keeping his vessel healthy. And so the more that you connect with yourself, mind, body, and spirit, the more your vibration skyrockets. And if your third eye is already pretty far open, as his is, as your vibration goes up, your skills come online like quickly. It's like it's like having it's like what do they call it? Like a control panel, right? And if you do all the things right, all the lights on the control panel will turn on. It's kind of like that. So this is actually, it's not something like the guides aren't able to just come in and flip a switch for you and then all of a sudden you're a medium. You have to work at it. You have to get stronger and stronger in your mental capacity. So there's quite a bit that we'll be able to discuss in regards to that, especially for things like You know, Bradley, you're really good at explaining how it feels as you're working in your trance as well. Like Bradley was explaining how it feels as Sam is coming in and kind of using his frontal lobe as a Rolodex and explaining like how it feels. Like there's all kinds of interesting things to learn from Bradley as he's going through this wonderful growth period. So no pressure, Bradley, but I'm really, really excited to bring you on the podcast on Wednesday so that people can kind of see what I'm talking about. And Sam is amazing. I can't wait for you guys to meet Sam. He's lovely. It's funny. Like Zach and Sam have a lot in common, but they're also quite different. Like Zach reminds me kind of more like a father, whereas Sam reminds me of more like the fun uncle. It's the best way of putting it. We are working on a mediumship class as we speak. We're actually in the process of writing it. So yes, that is in the works as we speak. We don't know when we're going to do it. We're going to have to try and squeeze it into our class schedule. Chad says, how do you break a curse? If you want to try and do it on your own, Chad, you could do what we call a burn and release ceremony. Look it up online. You'll see it, but it's called a burn and release ceremony. And you basically write everything down on a piece of paper. You can tear up the piece of paper and then you burn up the pieces. So you basically write out the contract that you made. And then you disavow the contract, you tear it up, you say it is no longer a factor in your life. You say, I'm done. It no longer serves me to my highest good. I'm clearing this. Tear up the paper, throw the pieces in the fire. Release it. Make that declaration. Otherwise, there are other layers to this. So if you try that and it doesn't work, we can go in for you and I can have my guides go into your Akashic record and clear the contract or the vow or the curse or the spell or whatever it is. Because as we look at your etheric fields, like for example, if you have a curse on you, we can actually see the curse affecting your etheric field. Sometimes it pops up as like weird occult symbols. If it's a professional curse, then it's even more likely to have those symbols. There's also all kinds of scrolls and weird things in regards to contracts that we might see. So we can tune into your etheric, find that curse or spell, and then clear it out. And if that doesn't work, because sometimes they are really, really strong and powerful and very ancient. And if it's that one of those curses, which are very rare for the record, these are, I've only found, I think, 3 of these curses that couldn't be broken by my guides. We then have an opportunity to go into the Akashic records, go into the halls of a mentee, basically take you into court within the halls of a mentee, and you can make the declaration to your higher self and source itself to clear it out completely. But then if you're in astral court, that is a completely different situation. I'm just saying, like, astral court is quite serious and you have to know exactly what to say, how to say it. And there's certain things that it's not just about saying like, I clear all vows. They want to know specifically what vow. They want to know who you made the vow with, which you can learn through your Akashic record, but they'll also want to hear you say yourself, I forgive this person and I choose to release this. And then the higher self will gauge whether or not it thinks that you have done that properly. And if it agrees, then it will be cleared from your record and it will be literally like an erased from your Akashic record completely. So yeah, we do basically in a way have astral lawyers that have to go into court for you amongst the halls of a mentee and clear out some of these contracts. The most common time we've had to do that is with grays, funnily enough, because those little fuckers are not easy to get rid of. And if you have a contract with a gray, chances are you have multiple contracts with the grays, to the point where you might even have had a contract with them over hundreds or even thousands of years. So that's why it ends up that's why we have to basically go to astral court to clear it out, because it ends up in layers. You don't just end up having one contract, you end up having like one contract that's split in a huge spectrum across all of these individual lifetimes. So the longer you've had the contract or the spell or the curse, the more layers, the more we have to clear it, because it's affecting not just one timeline, it's affecting multiple timelines all at once. All the different versions of you that exist since you made that contract are being affected by that contract or that curse or that spell, depending on if it's a professional curse or spell. The other curses, the ones that are sent by ill intention, that are not professionally done, those tend to be cleared in between 1 or 2 different lifetimes. They're not that hard to clear. In fact, my guides can clear it like that, like it's gone. So Ariana says, I don't understand why people want to do black magic when there is white magic. All forms of magic, and this is why I even say white magic, this is also true, can be very seductive, I guess is a good way of putting it. So people get seduced by the dark side all the time. You feel empowered by it, especially if you are somebody who lacks confidence or somebody or actually it could even be both. It could be people who lack confidence, so they give their power away to the entities, or people who are extremely narcissistic and like they love the power and control that they get, and they feel even more power and control by the entities that they have attached. So in those situations, they end up having more of a symbiotic relationship with their attachments. So their attachments aren't attacking the person that they're attached to. They're attacking the other people through that person, if you know what I mean. Like imagine a corrupt judge, for example. A corrupt judge with a whole bunch of attachments, they're not going to attack the judge. They want that judge to be healthy and in control and, doing whatever he wants. But if they are controlling that judge, they can make a lot of misery to other people through that judge. So the judge himself would never, it's kind of like a Typhoid Mary situation where he's perfectly fine, but the people around him are screwed because they've got all kinds of bad stuff coming from him. So narcissists generally are victims themselves. They don't have a good internal mirror. They weren't really raised with love. They don't really understand how certain emotions, are connected. They don't realize that when they hurt other people, they're bringing karma to themselves. So, you don't even want to know the amount of karma that we typically find on this on a narcissist. Hi Rachel. Rachel says, I had a session with Adriana. What is the difference between a starseed veteran and a starseed? I have been here since before the flooding from Tiamat. Am I here to help with the new starseeds when I was here for other purposes? Rachel, you've been here just about as long as I have. I've been here since the flood. In fact, I died on Tiamat. So I died where all that water came from. So that I am also a veteran. So yes, new starseeds are people that are on one of their first lifetimes here on Earth. They chose to come here now because of the shift. But there are many others that have been, for lack of a better word, stuck here for the last 12,600 years, if not even longer. Some starseeds have been here 30,000 years because they were here at the beginning of Atlantis or Lemuria or civilizations that we don't even know about anymore because they've been gone for so long. We're always so fixated on Atlantis and Lemuria, but people don't know there's more than 70 different civilizations on this planet that got flooded. You go to places like off the coast of Japan and you see they've got these massive underwater civilizations that people don't even have any record of. They have no idea where they came from. There's no names, no nothing. They're just there. So there's tons of those civilizations, and many of those civilizations were founded by starseeds, by non-humans. So they've been here since before the moon was even here, technically. Yes, exactly, Michelle. Because the moon has only been up there for 12,600 years. It was placed there in the exact spot that it is to be able to create an eclipse in the first place, because they know how energy flows are, and it's part of our control. That I know how I sound when I say that. So starseed veterans are kind of in the middle. They don't feel like they belong to the new starseeds, because the new starseeds are very like love and lighty, I guess is the best way of putting it. Like the new starseeds that come here, they're all like fluffy bunnies and rainbows and la la la. Like many of them have a really simple time here until you get on the radar of the dark side. There's a lot of starseeds, new starseeds, for example, that come here thinking, I'm going to go help. And then they go in here and then they get their asses handed to them because of entities or because they don't know how money works. They've never been on a planet with money before. But the veterans, and I mean, this is the reason why we call them Starseed veterans, is because most of them ended up stuck here because, in some regard, because of the war. And that is the Orion War that we're talking about. They call them the Orion Wars because that is where most of our enemies came from. They're, well, they say reptilians are actually from another universe, but one of the first places they took over was the planets around the Orion's belt. So that's why they call it the Orion Wars, because that was kind of their main base of operations while they were wreaking havoc all over our galaxy, all over our entire universe, really. There were tens of billions of people that were wiped out on other planets. Galactic souls that were taken out. And so many of them fled all over the place trying to find refuge. And that's why many of us came here. Lots of souls came to Earth as refugees. And that is why there are so many different tribes that are kind of like dotted all over the planet. That is why. So Rachel said, I died on Control just before the explosion of Tiamat, Andromedan. There's so many Andromedans here. Most of the starseeds that are here are some of the most involved races. There are probably close to 1,000 different starseed races that have been coming to Earth over the last few thousand years. So many of you have been here for 12,000 years. Some of you have only been here for a couple thousand years. I found a veteran the other day. He was here. He came with the Engen Pleiadians. Those are the Viking Pleiadians, and settled in like Norway and Sweden and Denmark. And he was killed by humans there. He came with like all of those high, I would say Thor and all of those guys. You know, all of these different gods that we talk about from mythology are completely real. In fact, I got quite a lecture the other day. I was actually asking because I was curious about some of these gods that have come here. Because one of my clients had some past life resonances in connection to the original gods that were here in Greece originally. He had a connection to Neptune, and we found out that he actually was a Tegetan, which is where they originally came from. So some of you guys will have a very strong connection to certain deities or to certain civilizations. And that's why, because those are your starseed roots. That's where you probably first came to Earth from. See, Cricket says, I am Engen and I've been here for 600 years. It's a long time for a starseed to be here. But it's even longer if you've been here tens of thousands of years. So with us veterans, though, we tend to struggle in between the two. Like, we don't really fit in with the Earth Seeds. Earth Seeds are people who have been here for pretty much their entirety of their soul history here on Earth. So, you know how we discuss, so a lot of, if you guys don't know this, right? And this is something that even my mom was discussing with me this morning, because my mom sent me this link from Samuel Lee, and Samuel Lee was discussing soul evolution. My mom was like, is this true? And I was like, yeah, actually, every word of that was true. Yep. So what's interesting about soul evolution is that you start out as a single-celled organism. Like, you don't actually, like, when you split your consciousness from source, when you take that little spark of consciousness from source and put it into a physical body somewhere, usually you start with very small bodies, the smallest possible. And then you work your way up to more and more complex bodies. And as you develop your consciousness and are able to take more complex bodies, sometimes you end up taking different humanoid bodies. So the Nordics, for example, are one of the higher sides of things. Like, you work your way up, being animals, plants, you name it. Then you end up as a human or some kind of other galactic race. And then you work your way up through those races too, because even in regards to galactics, some of them have more and more complex bodies than others. And I was laughing about this because Zach said something one time like, well, the Engen, you know, they're still finding their footing. They're still young. And I was like, Engen Pleiadians are young as a race? And he goes, yeah, usually you start out as kind of like a an Engan Pleiadian or a Tagetan or something like that. And I was like, God, if they're calling Engans like the babies of the Galactics, what are we, like embryos? Like, are humans in like this embryonic stage? We must be, if we're going to call Engans babies in regards to the whole working your way up the cosmic totem pole body wise. Irmas are interesting because Irmas evolved on the same planet that we did. We were originally called Lyrans. And Lyrans existed from the planets Avalon and Lyra. This is in the Vega star constellation. Vegans are also from the same galaxy that we are. Indian people from India, they are actually a race called the Vegans, and they came here with the Andromedans. So that's one of the reasons why you see Vegan and Andromedan art and all kinds of culture mixed in India and around, Nepal and Tibet and all of that, is because that is where they originally established their civilization. So as you're working your way up, I was asking the other day, I'm like, where do like the Nordic Pleiadians kind of sit in regards to the totem pole? And they said, well, Salacians are the top in regard to humans, like humanoid races, I should say, because they're so far from human. It's not even funny. So Salacians are about as high as you can go in a physical body. And after you've taken a Salation body, you no longer need a physical body. After you've mastered being a Salation, which is the white-haired Pleiadians that Zach and Sam and even my friend Kara is, there's about 60 different Salations on this planet. They've only sent 60 starseeds here. So they're very rare. And Salations, once you've mastered being a Salation, you become an angelic if you would like to. You can either go back to source and start all over again, which I have no idea why anyone would choose to do that. Or you can move up to the layers of light beings where you can be a light being and you don't need a physical body anymore. So being a light being is kind of like the ultimate goal for a lot of souls. But some, they're just like, I'll go back to source. I don't care. So I asked about Nordic Pleiadians, and they said that is what you usually are before you become a Salation. Or you can be the Sirius B race. And I'm like, really? Sirius B? And they said, yeah, Sirius B is also one of the most advanced vessels that you can have. And I was like, what makes them so advanced? If you are from Sirius B, for those of you who know Sirius B is a water planet. It is a planet where whales and dolphins come from. And you know what's really interesting? In 5D, on that planet, they're also shapeshifters. So if they want to be a dolphin or a whale, they can be. Otherwise, they can shapeshift and take a more human form. Because I was asking, I was like, how do they travel? Like, I couldn't imagine a whale powering a spaceship. And they're like, no, they just shapeshift back into their human race. And I was like, you mean kind of like the Little Mermaid? And they're like, yeah. I was like, holy shit. So yeah, they can even come here. So there are even people from Sirius B that have come here as part of a cetacean race. And I bet if you came from Sirius B that you have a serious love of dolphins and whales, don't you? So Mintaka is also another water planet. Mintaka is a water planet in Orion. So, or at least it was destroyed like Tiamat. In fact, the only water planet that I know of that's still standing, I'm sure there's many others, but the only one that I've been told of that is still standing is the one where my 9-year-old is from. Aiden is from a planet called Temur. Temur is inside the Taygeta star system. So you have Era, which is where I'm from, which is I found out 13 years ago in my astral projection. They're like, oh, you're from a planet called Era in Taygeta Pleiadian. And I was like, oh, okay, good to know. And then I learned the same thing later on from my Akashic records. So that was accurate. So yes, mermaids are from Mintaka, but there's different types of mermaids, just for the record. There were many different kinds of mermaids. Mermaids don't usually look the way that people think they do. Shay says Sirius B and the whales is what Loy was just telling me about. Well, there you go. Maybe you're also from Sirius B. Quite a few people are. If you were with me in France and you got to meet my beloved friend Gerda, who's like she's basically like my godmother. Gerda is from Sirius B as well, as was Toby. So there's a lot of people from Sirius B that are around, but they're just, you know, it is one of the more rare star seeds. There's not a lot of them here. There's a lot of common star seeds, but then on occasion there's more rare star seeds as well. I'm a Tagetin. We're very common. There's tons of us Tagetins out there. I keep bumping into my peoples all the time. Any other Tagetins hanging out right now? Because if you are a Tagetin, chances are you're from either Era or Temur, like Aiden is. Temur is a water planet. I'm sure there's others. Cherie says, although a whale driving a spaceship won't surprise me. I've seen dogs on scooters. Pretty funny, Cherie. Dana says, I'm a Tagetin in a pod. So you're just like my little squeaker then. My squeaker is also a Tagetin in a pod. Did you find out which planet you're from? Are you also from Temur or are you from Era? Courtney says, is there a planet Timu? Because those are the... You're so funny, Courtney. No, I don't think there's a planet Timu. That's hilarious. Where are Nordic Pleiadian from? I'm not sure. Let's ask Sam. This is one of the cool questions we can ask Sam. No pressure or anything. No pressure, Bradley. But we can ask Sam all these fun Starseed questions on Wednesday. How exciting. And then on Thursday, I do not have a plan because I've been so busy with stuff since I got back. I didn't even plan a guest for Thursday yet. So I'm still working on Thursday. Otherwise, I'll just come and hang out with you guys solo on Thursday. I don't care. I was kind of hoping I could find somebody to come on and do like tarot or crystal readings or something. So I'll look into that. As you can tell, I'm kind of like scrambling to catch up on all the things right now. Jessica says, start taking notes, Bradley. Yes, we have all kinds of questions for Sam. I'm not exactly sure where the Nordics are, where they're from. I'm sure they have their own planet somewhere. A lot of the Pleiadians are very like reclusive, where they don't really intermingle with other races very much. In fact, everybody, do you know what's crazy, right? When Zach showed up with some of the Salations to go to the Tagetins to tell the Tagetins they need to pull me out of body, that was the first time anyone had seen the Salations in 12,000 years. When Zach went to them and said, hey, you know, our girl is under attack and we need you to pull her out of body and warn her, Zach went and, visited them for the first time. The Salations did not intermingle with any other races. They kept to themselves. In fact, they're kind of concerned because they have very advanced technology that they don't want to share with anyone else. A lot of races are like that, where they keep their technology to themselves. They don't want it to get into bad hands, so to speak. So there are many races that have kept to themselves. And the only reason they're even helping right now in regards to this shift is because they are so invested in their starseeds. Because their starseed said, I'm going. You can't stop me. So there's a lot of people that have support here, but you just don't even know the level of support that you have. Chantal says you can have Sam on Wednesday and Bradley on Thursday. Make it a two-parter. Ariana says we have our memory wiped for a reason, to have a clean slate. Technically, to be fair, our memory is not erased. Our memory is always intact. It's just not downloaded to the new body. That is the problem. Because in most planets, you end up retaining all of your memories from lifetime to lifetime. Zach even remembers, we were having a funny laugh with Zach on one of the chats in our SRT class, because Zach said that he remembers being a bunny, like I don't know how many millennia ago. If he's almost at the end of his soul evolution, imagine how long ago he was a bunny. But he still remembers being a fluffy bunny on a different planet. So even though he's been around for millions of years, he still remembers. So it does make you wonder. Oh, by the way, I am unable to do the Astara meeting today, so I'm going to stay on here for another couple more minutes with you guys, and then I have to go and pick up my new vehicle. I bought a new car because my other one died. It's 23 years old and it said enough is enough. So I have to go pick up my new one. In fact, my mother is already texting me going, are you almost ready? Not yet. We'll give it 15 more minutes. So this is kind of like an Astara chat today, but a more prolonged one. Yes, Zach said that was one of his favorite lifetimes. Yes, when he was a bunny. So yeah, this is why I say, like, you're not supposed to technically forget things. However, there was a really sad thing that I saw this weekend. So if you guys don't mind holding space for that. So there is a lawful rescue that I did over the weekend for a young man that was killed in a car accident. And this young man was still in the car when we went and tuned into his energy to see where his perception was. And so Michelle says, what kind of car did you get? A Highlander, of course. Right, Fergus? Anyway, we tuned into this young gentleman and he was in the car and he was curled up like this and like hiding his face, like he was really scared. And he was shaking, like this poor young man was shaking. And this is an earthbound I'm talking about, right? So we tune in and we're like, why is he so upset? Why is he so scared? He wasn't in a death loop or anything. So I'm like, why is he so terrified? And he says, well, maybe it's because there's a big fucking Draco sitting in the chair next to him, sitting in the car next to him. And he was so traumatized by this Draco sitting next to me. He didn't know he was dead. He just saw in his car that he's got a big lizard sitting next to him in the chair and was like, ah, and went into like this catatonic state. So we checked him, and sure enough, we found out that he's a Nordic Pleiadian. This was his first incarnation here. He literally just came here to help. So he ended up having his team come, and his team of Nordic Pleiadians came and took him home. And the reason I'm mentioning this is I learned something interesting from that case, because that young man, you know, when he went home, I said, well, I feel bad that he's taking this earth trauma home with him because he came here with the intention to help, you know, and then he dies in a horrific car accident. And then he gets the shit scared out of him because there's a big freaking lizard next to him who probably caused the car accident in the first place. I asked if that was his plan, if he chose to die that way. And they said, no, he didn't plan that. So that adds to the trauma. If you experience something that you didn't choose, that compiles the trauma, makes it worse. But then to add to that, when he died, the first thing he sees is a big Draco officer next to him. So anyway, we got rid of the Draco. We sent that fucker to source, of course, as you do. And then we helped him cross over. So I said to Zach, I feel really bad that, you know, he is as traumatized as he is, and he's taking that trauma home. And you know what they said? No, he's not. We're going to wipe his memory. And I was like, oh, interesting. And they're like, yeah, we're going to wipe that memory so he doesn't have to take that home with him. He doesn't have to take that trauma home. So that is a real memory wipe. It was like the Men in Black flashy thing. You know what I mean? Exactly, Chantal. Chantal and I are like synced here. So I thought that was really interesting. So no, you don't have your memory wiped when you come here to Earth. Your memories are not downloaded to your new body. That being said, which I learned from this case, they can and do wipe memories sometime. Because it no longer serves you. If it's not going to benefit you, if it's literally just going to traumatize your spirit and lower your vibration, erased, gone. Reminds me of Total Recall. Like, anybody watch Total Recall? I'm showing my age now. Total Recall, I mean, it's pretty accurate if you think about it. Because imprints, Total Recall, that explains imprints, because yeah, he's downloading memories that weren't his. However, instead of just downloading memories, he ended up tapping into erased memories. So it's kind of like that. But it does make me feel better that you don't have to take your earth trauma home with you. That the guides were like, nope, we're gonna clear this out. He doesn't need to take this home. Kimberly says, I had a car accident too with a not soul from the light. Yeah, they do. Entities can cause car accidents. They can cause plane crashes. They can cause all kinds of stuff. They can even cause you to be murdered on a train, as we've noticed. So, just reading through the comments. You guys are hilarious. You're gonna post the Lost Soul Rescue so we can watch. Oh yeah. Yes, I can do that. I forgot about. See what I mean with the class? I completely forgot. Yes, I will post the Lost Soul Rescue. In fact, I will do that before I even leave in a minute. So I will post that in about 10 minutes. So you guys can watch the Lost Soul Rescue from Friday. Cherie says, can't witch wounds be erased like that? I don't know. That's a good question because witch wounds are some of the worst things we find on people. Witch wounds are one of the worst things that women have ever endured on this planet. I'm just saying, if you had a witch wound in your report, I'm sending you so much love. I've been there myself. This is usually something I would discuss on Astara because I don't have a trigger warning up for this. But most of the witch wounds that we find on people just think, oh, she was burned at the stake. That's traumatic. It's so much worse than that. Most people that were burned at the stake, that's how you died. That's not how you spent the year in prison. My beloved sister Gayla spent a year being tortured and beaten and raped and assaulted in all the horrific ways that you possibly could be assaulted for a year in prison before she was burned. So you wonder why she ended up in a rage loop. I mean, I would too probably if I had been treated that way. So you don't just have the trauma from being burned. You have the trauma from being abused. You have the trauma from being assaulted. You have the trauma from being locked up and starved. You have the trauma from people cheering while you were killed. Instead of people coming to your rescue, instead of people coming forward and being like, no, this is wrong, they actively participated in your torture. That is so much worse than being burned. When you die at the stake, I mean, honestly, you probably don't even suffer that long. You probably at most, depending on how big and bad the fire is, the suffering only lasts minutes to hours. Sometimes people are tortured for years before they meet that end. So, witch wounds have layers of trauma in regards to that. It's not just being burned. That was just the end of the suffering. So just being aware that if you're healing something like a witch wound, just be aware that this is not something you can really heal easily overnight. And this is part of the reason why I am the way that I am in regards to going to Salem. This is why I'm going to Salem. This is why I am doing the ghost busting tour across Wales and Scotland and Ireland and England, because I'm helping my sisters. I'm looking for each and every one of them that I can find and helping all of them cross over. Right, Galus? Love you. Galus and I are on a mission. So we're going to help as many of our sisters as we can possibly find. So that is why I say, like, if you're welcome to join us, if you are interested and if you are also healing a witch wound, maybe going out and helping your sisters is one of the ways that you can be a part of the healing process. Because every single one of those people who were deemed witches, they were good people. All of them were. That's why they were targeted in the first place. You know the saying, bad things only seem to happen to good people? I'll give you 2 guesses why that is. It's not because they were paying karma. It's not because they have done anything wrong. It's because most of them were trying to do something right, and the entities said, "Oh fuck no, we're gonna stop that." So, ironically, all the people who were burning witches and telling them that they're demonically possessed, they were the ones that were demonically possessed, and it was the entities that were goading them into doing all these horrible things. So for those of you who are also healing witch wounds, I too am healing a witch wound. I was killed in Fife, Scotland. There is a witch museum in Fife that we plan on going to. We've already cleared it out, but there was so much, even just attached to the artifacts, there was so much trauma, so much anger, so many emotions tried. Because there's things like scald bridles in there. Like I said, I had a scald bridle put on me in a past life. It's basically a cage for your head, so you can't talk. It's got a tongue depressor with spikes on it that keeps your mouth closed, or I should say, keeps you from speaking. Most of the witches had to wear things like that. They tell stories about wearing, I didn't want to get into it too much, but yeah, there's a long, long history here, and there's a lot of healing required. So we're doing everything we can to kind of shift that and heal that, because there were millions of us that went through that. And the fact that they still call them witches pisses me off a little bit, because they were all healers. They were all healers. In fact, many of them, like my friend Galus, were such great healers that they were making the doctors look bad. They were making the men look bad. And that is why they were taken out. Galus was a phenomenal healer. In fact, she saved 2 children's lives not long before she was killed. And she made the doctor that she worked for, look bad, because he couldn't fix them and she could. So he was the one that actually was responsible for her being taken in by the authorities. He was the one that claimed she was a witch. How's that? That your own employer, somebody who was supposed to be a healer himself, was doing that out of ego and jealousy. So there's a lot going on in regards to healing and repairing these things. Natalia said, why would one choose a life like that? Most of us did not choose to die that way. I would say 95% of us did not choose to be killed as witches. In fact, usually, what's interesting is we tend to find, see you later, Bradley, love you. So we tend to find multiple lifetimes in association with the witch wound. The most common we find are dark magic lifetimes. So chances are, if you were born in that time period as a healer, it's because you were trying to make amends for doing some craft in the past. So many people who were, let's just say, doing dark magic, or even just doing, I would say, gray magic, because sometimes it's not even about trying to manifest something for, something negative. It's more about trying to get something away from somebody else. Like casting a spell so you're the one that gets the promotion over somebody else. That kind of thing, right? So they weren't even trying to really hurt people. They were just trying to get ahead a little bit in life. But that can still be considered dark magic, because you're still taking from other people in order to better for yourself, right? So a lot of this isn't even like bad stuff that they're healing from. It's just small bits and pieces of karma they were trying to repair. So chances are, if you had a dark magic life, that is how you repair it, by coming back as a healer. Even if you murdered somebody, generally this is how you come back, because what happens when you hurt somebody, you end up creating karma. And if that person is still angry about it, chances are they're going to want to flip the script, and they're going to want to hurt you next time. So a murderer ends up the victim. And then that creates karma again, which is why we talk about these karmic loops that people keep getting stuck in, where I kill you, you kill me, I kill you, you kill me. And it keeps happening over and over again. But then at some point, one of the souls says, enough is enough. I don't want to do this anymore. And instead of choosing to kill you in this lifetime, I'm going to choose to be a healer. I'm going to choose to heal you. There's going to be some point in your life where you're going to be really sick, and then you're going to come to me, and I'm going to be the one that's going to nourish you and heal you and bring you back to good health, and to give you the love and the respect and the consideration and the compassion that you need. Because TLC is how you repair that karma, right? You did something really horrible to somebody, so you have to make it back to them by being a healer or a carer in some degree. So that's why many of these, we're talking millions of us have come back as healers, because we're trying to repair that karma. This is why so many of you end up as carers or nurses, and just trying, because maybe you did bad things in a past life. Who knows? Maybe you're just doing it because you want to come here and help. So this is why it helps to look into your Akashic record and to look into your true motives as to why you were incarnating as a healer. So to get to my main point here, there would be people who were doing magic in nefarious ways, or at least in shady ways. They come back as a healer to help people and to do good things, and then they get persecuted because they switched teams. If you think about it, in that first lifetime where they were doing dark magic, they were playing for the other side. They were using entities to imbue their will on other people. That's what magic is. So you're asking for the universe, you're calling in all of these energies, you even call in your ancestors, your guides, or if you're doing dark magic, you call in dark entities, and they're the ones that go and do the deeds for you, right? So if you're going to come back again as a healer, you've switched teams and they're pissed about it. They're like, hey, you were on my side. You were helping me do harm to people in last lifetime, and now you're going to come back as a healer? So that's why many of us were targeted. It's because they're like, oh, no, you don't. And then we come back so broken from being burned and abused and raped and all these horrible things that we don't even have that capacity to be healers, because we're so scared and broken, and like that's what they want. They're the number one thing that I find in regards to a witch wound is disempowerment. They created these scenes to disempower people, and that is the number one thing that they manifest, is to give your power to other people and to make you more afraid. So this is a very big subject, and witch wounds are very complicated in regards to every single experience is unique. And yet so many of them have so many things in common. It's unbelievable. So we'll talk more about this as we go, because there's a lot of this. There's so many different layers in regards to healing witch wounds. And not only witch wounds, but Cathar people, right? If you were a Cathar, chances are you were also killed brutally and burned at the stake as well, because they weren't just burning witches. They were burning everybody back in the day. They burned thousands and thousands of Cathar all over France, all over Germany, all over the place, basically all over Europe. So you could have layers of trauma in regards to many other past lives too. So, an Akashic Records reading really does help you to understand what you're still working on to heal and what karma you're still working to repay. So for those of you who are into that, I would love to have kind of like a Starseed veteran class where we have, Rachel's reading my mind on this again, have a webinar on this. I want more. I would love to have a Starseed veteran class, which, no offense to the Earthseeds and the new Starseeds here, but us veterans, we have extra trauma. We have so much trauma that a lot of us end up in very, very dark places. In fact, this is a conversation I was having over the weekend with a friend, that there were a couple points in my life, couple crossroads in my life, that I'm very lucky that I chose the right path, because I could have gone down a very, very different, very dark path. And a lot of veterans, unfortunately, did make that choice. They did end up going down the wrong path, and it led them to addiction. It led them to all kinds of horrible psychological stuff going on, like schizophrenia and manic depression and all kinds of stuff. Like, many of us Starseeds veterans are dealing with extreme PTSD. And I'm not just talking from one lifetime's worth of PTSD, like many of the Starseeds. Some of the Starseeds come here and they don't even have that much that needs clearing, because they don't have as much trauma. I can tell by looking at your report, just by looking at what you had attached in regards to spells, curses, contracts, vows, if you're an Earthseed, a Starseed, or a veteran. I can tell. Because the veterans have the most shit. Earthseeds, it's weird. It's like, even though you've been here the whole time, it's almost like you know how the game is played. And so you played the game in a different way. But the veterans that came here, they came here trying to help, and they died usually in horrific situations. So that creates the karma. That creates trauma. And then we get traumatized for thousands of years, but then also we get it targeted extra because we've been a bright light throughout all these different incarnations, even in like the dark ages when things were really, really dark. Can you imagine how bright a starseed light would have been back in the dark ages? You know, they were heavily targeted. So this is why, you know, it's not just one lifetime we're trying to heal, it's all of them. And if you're like me, I'm a Starseed veteran, and after Adriana went through my record, we learned that almost every single time that I've died on this planet, I was killed. I did not die of old age very often. I think I had like one lifetime where I died of old age. All the rest of them, I was either murdered, I died in battle, or I died doing some dumb shit. Those are the three things: dumb shit, murder. You know, like yeah. So I've got a lot of stuff that I'm repairing and healing and things. And Zach jokingly calls it like digging up dead bodies. But sometimes when you go through those experiences and you learn about all of your past history, it allows you to release things better. So yeah, that happens a lot, Chantal, where the guides refuse to show Adriana as it's too traumatic. Yeah, there's sometimes where you've been through so much horrific stuff that, like with what happened to Kat, for example, after we left Carcassonne. You know, that poor Adriana had to see that as she's telling us about our history and what we went through. So I just want to spend so much love to Akashic Records readers, because as they're going through our trauma, they have to see that. Like, we get told again, and you can kind of see it in your mind's eye. That's why I've noticed in my Akashic Records reading, whenever you tell me things about my past lives, it's almost like I can see it through here too. So you end up kind of a little bit triggering yourself. Daniel says pressure makes diamonds. There you go, Daniel. Kimberly said, I had one incarnation as an Anunnaki, the dark side. We cleared it all. It was hard and painful. I can only imagine. It's beautiful, though, that you're healing this, because once we've healed it, we can go home. I said something to Sam the other day. I was like, if I were to get hit by a bus like tomorrow, would I be able to go home? Have I done enough to go home? They're like, yeah, you can go home. But not yet. You don't get to go home yet. You don't go doing dumb shit to get yourself sent home early. I'm like, no, I'm not. I would rather, honestly, I think this is going to be the one lifetime where I do die of old age. That is my goal in this lifetime. To be like, come on, just give me one where I can last to the end, please. But I do entirely feel like, you know, going home for sure. At least going and getting a different body first. Ray says, anything we don't heal this year, we'll repeat in 9 years. So we don't heal next year, repeat again. Well, sometimes it doesn't take 2 years. It doesn't even take 6 months, depending on what it is. Sometimes you can heal things overnight, or heal it with one burn and release ceremony or one experience. So there doesn't have to be a time period. So anyway, yes, that's why we were talking extra, because there was no Astara today, which ironically I could have done really, because I'm staying extra. But my mom was texting me going, where are you? So I do have some fun hanging out with you guys today. I'm going to go get my car. I'm excited to be driving something that isn't going to fall apart on me. No, it's fine. Either way, thank you, Michelle. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow with our wonderful Ferris. Ferris will be doing some healing on you guys tomorrow. So make sure that you guys tune in and get the healing from Ferris tomorrow, because as you know, you feel great after one of his sessions. So it'll be really nice to catch up with him tomorrow. And then we'll see Mr. Bradley on Wednesday. And I will still work on having somebody for Thursday. Mwah! I love you guys. Have a fantastic day. See you all soon. Bye, everyone.